Yes, I'm aware this review is coming out well over a month after the reality war graced our televisions, phones, and theater screens. But I think I needed some time to process it. In all honesty, this episode nearly broke me of my fandom for Doctor Who. That's how disappointed I was in it. And I wasn't even sure I knew how I would approach reviewing it. Because so much of what is contained here impacts what we have seen since 14 bigenerated into 15, and, well, quite honestly ruins it, that I considered abandoning the review of this episode completely and just talking about that. But that wouldn't have been fair and would have broken my streak. So, that. We're going to review this colossal turd like we would any other episode, and next time we'll tackle all that other business, in case I don't vomit it out in this episode anyway. So let's do it. Let's fuck it up. Let's get into the reality war. Subscribe. I don't do this for my health, you know. We pick right back up with the Doctor falling to his doom. Conveniently, this time he doesn't mention that bit about Poppy being his real kid, when Anita pops the door open from the Time Hotel and saves him by pulling him in there. Because this happens, everyone goes Groundhog Day and May the 23rd resets and nobody is dead. Yes, this is already going great. Anita explains that May 24th never happened and everything reset at midnight, and this has happened hundreds of times. Also, Anita fucked the head of HR and is now with child. Wait, the head of HR knocked up the manager of the hotel and nobody got fired or sued? Guess Conrad's wish really was far-reaching. Anyway, she explains her time is in flux because the world won't end in 2025. She's been looking for the Doctor by spying on him during his timeline, but stumbled upon the fact that he is gay and decided Ricardo would do as a behind the glass to break in case of emergency. So the Doctor explains that reality keeps repeating because the Ronnie needs said reality to be thin so that she can snap it and find Omega, the most fearsome giant baby skeleton in existence. See, the Red Ronnie didn't know about Anita and the Time Hotel because, and I'm not kidding here, Flood said she had Christmas off, and she should know this because they're the same person. So yeah, the thing we should thank for the Doctor not dying when he was falling off the balcony wasn't any kind of clever thinking from him, it was because the Ronnie took Christmas off for reasons. So you know, cool I guess. That it don't matter though because the Seekers have found Omega's location. The Doctor enters Poppy's room when Anita mentions that the little shit isn't real. So the Doctor says her creation in this little room is more important than anything that has happened in his entire life. This is how important Poppy is. The Doctor changes and takes Belinda and Poppy to the Time Hotel. This helps Belinda remember who she is, and both her and the Doctor giggle because they have a kid together. They open the door to Unit, and the Doctor makes everyone remember who he is by just saying his name. And I guess the f***ing Vlinx comes exploding through reality. Oh, and Rose too, because the real world is starting to seep in. The Doctor explains that because Rose is a transgender woman, that was too much for Conrad's brain, so she popped out of existence. Neither of them helped resolve the plot in any particular way though. Also, I'm not sure if this confirms anything about the Vlinx's sexuality, but time will probably not tell. The Doctor also explains that the giant fossil dinosaurs are actually antibodies due to two realities bumping together, and introduces everyone to Poppy. Unit apparently has all their employees biochipped, and I have no time to even fathom those implications when she sends a signal to wake up both Jam Jam and Melanie. I'm exceedingly certain that they will be extremely useful to the cause. Also, she wakes up Ruby, and they all head to Unit. Meanwhile, Conrad apparently has a hard-on for the Red Ronnie, and she uses that to make him locate the Doctor in his mind. Over at Unit, everyone is back to normal, including the fucking walls, and the Doctor makes one of those triad clones build him a box. When everyone shows back up for hugs and kisses. But not Melanie. She literally drives her Vespa through the front doors of the Unit building, past all the people that may or may not have yet been woken up, goes over to the elevator, hits the button to go up, rides up the elevator to the top floor, gets out of the elevator, and drives her ass into the unit's top floor. The doctor brings everyone up to speed on the Ronnie when Ruby asks a very good question about how Poppy could be real when they met her on Space Baby Station. And the doctor explains that she came to be from fragments of their own memories. Not Ruby's memories, Belinda's, who was not on Space Baby Station, but still once did see Poppy in an alleyway over in Africa. The Ronnie just appears and explains that she survived the genetic explosion by switching her DNA in the last second, so the Master's genocide missed her. How did she know it was coming? Well, she just did. How convenient. The Doctor claims to have the only TARDIS in existence, which is weird due to the memory TARDIS being a thing last year, and hey, whatever happened to that? Quick, everyone subscribe, remember it real hard, and it'll come back. Flood Ronnie says she just looked for dumb blonde girls and found the Doctor, and now they're ready to release Omega. The Doctor is all, Omega was just banished, and people say he went insane, like he hasn't already defeated him twice. But the Ronnie plans to use Omega as a DNA bank to construct a new Gallifrey, because the bomb we were clearly told was only strong enough to explode one planet has now made every Time Lord that survived sterile, and can't have kids anymore. So the Ronnie wants to use Omega to bring them back. You see, this plan was somehow better than just using the Doctor to do that, since he's the actual OG Time Lord, and she already had him under Conrad's wish. No, going that extra mile to find Omega in the Underverse by looping a day based upon a wish to make everyone doubt this existence so that it makes reality thin enough so that the Doctor's doubt will shatter the upper reality so that you can go find his location with the 999 bots in the Upside Down is a much better, more efficient plan. Gold star, Red Ronnie. The Ronnie can't use Poppy for her new Gallifrey because not only is Poppy half human and tainted, the Doctor and Belinda aren't going to exactly let her kill their fake kids, so we're at a stalemate. The Ronnie is close to getting Omega out, so she sets the AT-ATs onto the unit building, and the unit building can turn, because why the f can it? I mean, by generation was just explained as shit Time Lords now do because they can't have babies, and a half building turning with a giant access point in the center that can shoot laser cannons like it's a pirate ship in a Monty Python short film at giant fossils bothers you at this point? Where are your priorities? In the time it took for the Ronnie to explain her plan, Mary Do constructed a box with spare Wish World parts lying around. This room is a zero room. Inside, when it's shut, it exists outside of space and time and reality, so it's basically a TARDIS, and the Doctor throws Belinda and Poppy in there to protect Poppy in case she disappears when this reality is reset. The Doctor tells Belinda that it all makes sense now. He met her so that Poppy could exist, and my own brain melts out of its ears as they lock the door to the zero room. Ruby uses some gadget thing that doesn't really matter to go see Conrad, and the Doctor steals Loki's speeder. The Doctor pauses to tell everyone that he loves them, which is just so dumb, and flies off to confront the Ronnie. This shot looked like I was strapped into a moving chair at a amusement park on a motion ride called Doctor Who and the Dinosaur Fossil Caper. Just fucking awful. More arguing with the Ronnie ensues about the Time Lords and Omega, blah blah blah, when the door to, I guess, what is Omega's now tomb is opened, and this thick skull baby pops out.
I like big butts. Damn, boy, he's thick. Boy, that's a thick ass boy.
Immediately eats the Red Ronnie and says he's gonna feast on Time Lords. See, Omega has now transformed into this because of reasons, and Mrs. Flood f***s off with the time ring. The Doctor uses the doohickey thing like a full-on gun to blast Omega back into the Underverse. Thanks, Omega. Meanwhile, Conrad and Ruby have the weirdest conversation about how Conrad's world was nice, what with the doubt police, forced marriages, fake kids, homeless disabled, eliminated transsexuals, and rampant homophobia. Mein Führer, how dare they? Your empire wasn't all that bad. Ruby uses Baby Leprechaun to wish Conrad to be happy. and he disappears, so Ruby also wishes things back to normal. And then the doctor does a kiss wish for, and I quote, "no more wishes." Which, sure, we assume he meant to curb baby wish kisses' power, but aren't you glad that whatever is in the universe that's granting these wishes isn't super literal, or birthday parties are sure gonna suck now? The doctor gets back and Poppy's okay, until everyone starts to forget she existed. Everyone but Ruby, I guess because of the whole fairy thing, but when she mentions it to anyone, they think she's crazy. It's finally May 24th, we say goodbye to Anita. Oh, that's what happened to her. Even though Kate offers her a job because, of course she did, and we get another boss reference. Everything is not quite back to normal. Mary Do explains there are some slight differences, and for some reason, nobody mentions that Mavity is now Gravity, and Mel points out that Conrad is all good being a bro and not a They all argue some more about Poppy being real, but Ruby convinces the doctor that Poppy deserves to exist. Everyone agrees, and is convinced that the doctor should go save this child that none of them even remembers because, as Kate says, aren't we all his children? So the doctor decides to sacrifice himself for Poppy to be real because she's his child. The doctor runs into the TARDIS to blast his regeneration energy into the time vortex to reset reality by 1 degree when 13 shows up. She explains that if he ruptures the time vortex as he intends to do, he may fracture all of time and space and kill all life. So, maybe the ghost kid thing isn't worth it? Just kidding, he's got a real pretty face, so she's gonna help him calibrate the settings and then fuck off. Thanks for showing up, 13. So the doctor does his thing and reality resets with some glass breaking. He wakes up on the lawn, been there, done that, of Belinda's parents' house with his regen energy going. He runs in to see Poppy, who is now alive, and Belinda reveals that this whole time she was really just trying to get home to see Poppy. And she would say it all the time, you just as the viewer were watching another Belinda that you cared about and not this one. This one is a single mother of a space baby, so fuck you. Also, there's a human baby daddy, Richie, not Alan thankfully, and the doctor scans Poppy without permission in front of Belinda to be sure, and yes, she is human, so not the doctor's kid. The doctor says goodbye and hints to Belinda that if she sees him again, he won't look like this, and she kinda remembers something of the life that she left behind, and he tells them both that he loves them. The doctor goes to space to regenerate in the presence of the Joy Star and regenerates into Rose Tyler. However, they don't do the thing where they introduce the new actor as the doctor. The end. So, what the hell was that? I don't just mean the regeneration head scratcher. What the fuck was this whole episode? Hold on tight, folks. This one's gonna be bumpy. And yeah, I am actually surprised that there is a section this time with the things that I liked. Okay, fine. I didn't hate having Anita back. I liked Anita a lot during the Christmas episode, and I was happy to see her again. To be honest, I completely forgot her and wasn't expecting her to come back. So, it was a nice surprise. Maybe if Trevor had been magically restored into existence when reality shift happens instead of Poppy, this episode could have achieved a better rating, but as nice as it was to see you, Anita, you really didn't do fuck all but hold the door open the whole episode, and honestly, I didn't even really remember what happened to you after a certain point, so you didn't exactly elevate this episode any. I wish your appearance had been more than just another one of the we need to stuff all the cast we can into the finale RTD trope. You were a fun character when Moffat wrote for you, but today you can join Rogue, Melanie, Susan Triad Marydo, and pretty much all of UNIT as another useless twat brought back because we saw you that one time and RTD likes to do that. But don't complain that all you got to do is hold the door open and remind everyone that you're in hospitality because you could have been Rose Noble, who just appears, gets a hug, smiles, and is forgotten about until RTD decides he wants to remind you what the T stands for in LGBTQ+. Things I didn't like. What the doctor does to Belinda in this episode is probably worse than you already think it is. Yes, he shifts reality and makes her into a person that she is not, and has not been throughout the entire season. The episode tries to justify this by making Belinda ask him to do it, but I want you to think about it from the Doctor's perspective. Put yourself in his shoes and ask yourself what motivates him to go through with this. We find out in this episode that the Doctor has known since the death particle went off on Gallifrey that Time Lords are now sterile and he can't have children. But the Doctor also knows that he does have a granddaughter that he once traveled with, but he hasn't had any children yet. Forget about the fact that him not having children yet makes no sense. We'll discuss that next time. But he remembers his granddaughter that he knows eventually exists, that has been recently contacting him through visions. So I would assume that the Doctor would either deduce that the Susan that he traveled with was not who she said she was, because, he's sterile now, or this Poppy person that Ruby won't shut up about is really his daughter and Susan's mother. Created from wishes and memory, admittedly mainly the Doctor's memory because the only time Belinda saw Poppy was as a vision in an alleyway, so really his. Now it's important to remember that he could still be wrong, and even if he was able to remember Poppy and his time on Conrad's Wish World, everyone told him she was not real, and Belinda and him did not have a baby. He's also fully aware that if he is able to accomplish his goal of bringing Poppy back into reality, it's going to fundamentally change who Belinda is as a person. Sure, he knows doing this is going to end this incarnation of himself, but he also knows that he's going to end the current life of his current best friend. So the reason he goes through with this is because he expects Poppy is Susan's mother. And guess what? She isn't. It turns out that Poppy wasn't his daughter. He shifted reality and gave Belinda a kid that she didn't ask for because he selfishly and desperately wanted the little girl who everyone told him wasn't real and that he didn't remember to be real. This is the shittiest and most self-serving thing I have ever seen the Doctor do. I'm certainly not saying that being a single mom is a bad thing or unfulfilling in any way, but considering that there has not been one episode where we have seen Belinda longing to have a child, or showing maternal instincts, or maybe even still reeling from a prior miscarriage, I don't know. But what you showed us was Belinda being an incredible nurse that sacrifices herself for her patients, doesn't take shit, and is seemingly satisfied with her current trajectory enough to only talk about missing her parents. The only time we see Belinda with children prior to this was her being kinda nice to preteen Conrad and glancing at Poppy in the alleyway. Jesus Christ, RTD, I didn't know you could do a companion worse than what you did to Martha, but at least Martha got a somewhat satisfactory ending by walking away from the Doctor. You f***ing assassinated Belinda. And you did it in a story that was meant to satirize traditional normalities. We'll talk about the ending in a little bit because I know this wasn't the expected ending to Belinda's character arc, but the end result of what was written, produced, and aired was the Doctor acting more selfish than I have ever seen him and a complete character assassination of Belinda. And then you show the Doctor scanning Poppy's DNA with a sonic without permission, just like he did to Belinda when she got pissed at him for doing so. He learns nothing, and you claiming that he saved a life when in reality what he did was end a life is just baffling. Why the fuck does Conrad get a happy ending? What happened to dying in a cell from a heart attack, bitter and alone in his 40s? Unless old fry cook Conrad over here gets caught stealing from the till, I guess his death wasn't a fixed point in time? I mean, to me that seemed like a fitting end to an asshole that spread conspiracy theories, over Ruby, nearly brought down Unit, and stood up to the Doctor. Never mind the horrors that his wish brought into the world. Exactly what was the point of this character? What lesson did this villain learn, and what redemption journey did they go on to justify this ending? Conrad tricked the minds of an entire subset of people by gaslighting them, tricked Ruby into a romantic relationship and used her to try and expose Unit, doxed government employees into extreme danger, shot his inside man at Unit and infiltrated the building, live streamed it, held people hostage, refused any kind of redemption with the Doctor, and used a baby pantheon god to wish a world into existence that eliminated people from reality and forced norms onto people without their consent. but because Ruby somehow deemed the world he wished to be for as family-oriented, and because he grew up without a dad and had an abusive mom, Conrad's sins get forgiven and he gets to live out the rest of his days as a human SpongeBob SquarePants. Jamie still has spina bifida, Rose too is still alive, but she's gonna be bullied for who she is, and the Island of Lost Toys over there from last episode all get to go home and still get to have their meds again, but sure, give Conrad a nice life because you like his dimples. What a fucking joke. I sure do hope everyone was happy with the big return of the Ronnie. Ever since this show came back, there has been a persistent drum to bring this character back to our screens. So here you go. She was an old lady neighbor that broke the fourth wall for no reason, bi-generated into a camp, mustache-twirling villain that sashayed her way through a completely convoluted plan to bring back Omega and immediately got eaten. Now, as I am sure you have already thought about, there is no chance for the Ronnie to return without some serious retconning because Flood isn't supposed to be able to regenerate now. So great that she f***ed off and is still alive for Ronnie fans, but once she dies, she's gone. Unless you're saying regenerations or even bi-regenerations can still happen for both bi-generated Time Lords. In that case, I'm not sure why you bothered with Omega. Seems like you could have repopulated Gallifrey with all your bi-regenerations and a sharp knife. I appreciate you keeping Big Finish in the money with all the story possibilities of unknown doctors, but you are confusing the shit out of the casual viewer, of which there are fewer and fewer. You can't blame this the execution of a classic character on Disney dragging their feet on next season, or Shooty's rise to fame, or even woke politics. This is just bad writing and a half-assed plan. Omega sucked. I'm not even sure why you bothered with it. Why not make Big Baby Skeletor to be Rassilon? You were already using his seal the whole time, and at least he died with a body, so no mental jumping jacks were needed to give him another one. RTD, and all writers really, the reason a character like Omega is interesting for fans to see again is because they were impactful for some reason during their original runs, and if you want them to be impactful again, you sorta need them to do something more than just crawl out of a pipe. The thing that made Omega interesting was his ties to the original Time Lords and what happened to him when he figured out time travel. But we sorta know now how Time Lords came to be, so I'm not really sure why anyone would be interested or even need to see Omega as a threat, especially in this form. Hell, I probably would have been way more entertained if the Ronnie was trying to bring back Tectayun, since she was the one that rewrote Time Lord DNA to include regeneration. At least it may have been slightly satisfying to see the Doctor shoot a laser gun at her to beat her back into the Underverse. I didn't like your BS attempt at a multi-Doctor story. This thing has been out long enough now for me to have seen tons of comments and articles written about how nice it was to have Jodie be there and get to say lines written by a competent writer. And I'm not sure what you guys saw, or if you're just being kind to Jodie since she went through some shit when she was the Doctor. But guys, watch the scene again. What was the point? As I understand it, what the Doctor is about to do by blasting his regeneration energy into the time vortex caused a bit of a reality shift, and 13 jumped into 15's time stream in this moment. She's there to tell him, hey, you don't want to be fucking around with this shit because you could fuck it all up for time and space, so stop it. But he's like, I can save one person. And she's like, yeah man, totes get it, but if you fuck it up, nobody lives, including the person that you're trying to save. Then they sort of bow up to each other like there's gonna be some kind of fight when she's like, nah, I'll help because I look hot later. Then she does help him. They have the weirdest mutual jerk-off session that I have ever witnessed. 15 tells 13 he loves her, which is executed in a way to make it feel like the audience is telling her that. She talks about Yaz, and we're supposed to be like, this is groundbreaking, but we already knew all of this. At least she said the line,
redecorated. I don't like it.
With all the touchy-feely shit going on, I half expected her to follow up the line with, I love it! But thankfully they didn't do that, and I enjoyed her reason for not liking it, so at least there's that. But everything else was pretty f***ing terrible and unnecessary. I get that it was nice to see her, but I would have rather she'd been in an actual multi-doctor story with something to do. Things I didn't understand.
What?
I don't understand Anita or the Time Hotel in this episode. Okay, the Ronnie has Conrad kiss the forehead of infinite baby wishes to create a reality that loops its existence every day to make reality weaker and weaker until the Ronnie can extract Omega from the universe. With me so far? Cool. Reality does explode at some point in this infinite loop and destroys Earth in the process because in every reality after May 2025, the Doctor and Belinda travel to have no recollection of Earth, so the future of Earth doesn't exist. So how does the Time Hotel still exist in 4202? Yes, I know they're in a bit of a crisis because the day keeps resetting, but they shouldn't exist at all. 4202 doesn't exist now. And if you say, well, it's a time hotel, so it exists outside of time. Well, not really true. See, as explained, the doorways are time portals, and the hotel is not a TARDIS. So even if the time portals are outside of time itself and not affected, the hotel and Anita would be. Okay, f*** it. This is the last paradox I'm gonna let my brain get stuck on. I don't understand why Ruby is just so adamant about saving Poppy when she knows the Doctor did not have a daughter prior to Conrad's wish. You know Poppy is real because you saved her from a snot monster in the far-off future with this same Doctor, and it has been explained to you time and again that the Poppy in this universe was simply created out of memories and did not exist outside of this reality. And yes, the Doctor tried his damnedest to keep this little goblin alive, but bitch, why are you trying to settle the Doctor down with a baby that he didn't want or even plan to have prior to your ex-boyfriend Trumpifying the world? You were even seemingly a bit creeped out in the TARDIS when they were talking about putting up baby rails and making you the third wheel. You claim this guy is your best friend all the time, but you have only known this guy as a gay man that does not want to be tied down. I could understand if you had never seen Poppy before and really thought the Doctor was going to lose his family if you didn't make him believe it, but that wasn't what happened here. You f***ed around with you shouldn't have, even though you've been exposed to an alternate reality before. And because you're so worried about some magic kid that for all you know was time displaced, you risked the very fabric of time. You killed the 15th Doctor and replaced Belinda's life to one of being a single mother that works nights and needs her parents to watch her daughter during the day. Sure, the father sounds nice, but Ruby, your actions don't seem that different from Conrad's. You blather to Conrad about how nice it was that everyone got a family, but Belinda was terrified that she couldn't remember giving birth to Poppy and screamed out into the woods. You grew up without a traditional family and have seemed pretty well adjusted in the past, so why are you so hell-bent on making your gay traveling buddy settle down with a traditional wife and kid? So much to dislike, and so much I didn't understand, but that didn't stop me from venturing into Nitpick Corner! We need to talk about Anita's gaydar. She spent an entire year with this man and didn't pick up on the fact that he was into dudes. Never mind the fact that Anita is just so lucky that she didn't open up the wrong door at very much the wrong time when she was snooping into the Doctor's time stream and catch him with some alien tramp that he dragged home from the club. She never figured out that he was gay. Anita, girl, you need to get out more. This dude is the textbook definition of homosexuality in modern times. I get that things may be different for her now that she works for a hotel that has no qualms about the head of HR and the manager of the hotel having an open sexual relationship and the world operates differently in 4202, but you spent a majority of your life in the time period that I did, and I wouldn't have had any issue spotting that this Doctor was into dudes without having to spend an entire year with him. This may very well be the scene in Doctor Who that I have laughed at the hardest in my entire time watching the show, and not for reasons that it wanted me to, until this scene.
Anita, keep that door open. I need you to keep real time flowing.
I assume she has to keep the door open because that is helping the folks at Unit remember reality or some But why are you barking this order at her? Like, she's had plenty of time to reconsider her life choices here. What with this red lady talking about baby DNA to reconstruct a race. I know that the Ronnie wants Omega, but if I had a bun in the oven like Anita does, I wouldn't be taking any chances and would have already noped out to chill with Ricardo the moment that these bitches started talking about genocide. She's opened enough doors into the Doctor's life to figure out that he's got this one, and she's likely got a spare doorstop in the supply closet that she can use for this very occasion. Why are you running to the door here? You're phasing out back into your timeline. You know this is happening, and you still run for the door like you need to get back by running. Maybe she does that because she was right in the middle of some kind of battle and she needs to run back to it, but boy does this look dumb from this side of things. So let's talk about that ending. So we pretty much have confirmation that they shot a different ending than the one we saw. But because Disney was dragging their feet due to the ratings and everyone being in flux, then the rising star of Jodie and the projects that he was missing out on forced him to decide that he was done being the Doctor. So they wrote a new ending with Jodie's regeneration, and that's what you saw. Now, I've thought a lot about it, and I'm not quite sure where this original ending starts, but the logical place would be during the coat folding scene where Poppy disappears. I'm not sure how RTD originally wrote that scene, but I would guess Ruby also forgets Poppy or something like that. Anyway, some actor that was on set posted that the original ending was some kind of big dance party over at Unit, and this tracks, where everyone is dancing and the Vlinks is the DJ. This also tracks. I think Disney released this picture on the platform or something, but either way, this shot pretty much confirms this part is true. The leaker goes on to say that in the shadows, Susan, Carol Ann Ford, the Doctor's granddaughter, would have been watching, holding Poppy's hand. She looks down at Poppy after watching the Doctor for a moment and says, "Come on, Mom." And they walk out. And I've read further reports saying that Ruby sees them, tells the Doctor and Belinda, and the three of them run off into the TARDIS and chase after Susan, setting up Jodie's third season with Belinda and Ruby as the companions. Now, I don't know how it was originally written to be able to give a full opinion on how it would have turned out, but it reads like it probably would have sucked. However, it would have sucked way less than what we got. Because what we got left us with so many dangling narrative threads that I get angry thinking about it. I want to talk more about the overall impact of this episode on the greater narrative of this era, so we're going to revisit all of this in our next video. So what did I think of Reality War? Well, I haven't been this angry about an episode of Doctor Who since The Timeless Child. But even that one had me because I just didn't like what it did to the lore. In addition to it being a really dumb episode where the Doctor does nothing but stand there and be told her backstory. This episode felt like shitty answers to shitty questions with people that looked like our main characters doing things that they would never do normally for reasons that sort of fit into a tacked-on ending. The impact of its execution and what it has to say is not only far-reaching to taint an entire era, but it also casts shadows on the first Doctor's era, and that pisses me off. Like I said, I will do a Versus review next time of the entire RTD2 run to date. But this episode upset me so much. I had a brief moment where I questioned why I enjoy this show, and that's coming from someone that's very much into adulthood and hasn't just been burning out on a show that raised him, or someone whose politics don't align with the current showrunners. It was bad. It recontextualized an otherwise pretty good season. It made me yearn to see RTD leave and not very sad to see Jodie go, but also not very excited about the future, and don't worry, we'll address this abomination next time. I give the Reality War a 0. Only one other time have I felt this way about an episode about my favorite show, and it really sucked. I want to end this video on a positive note, so I want to tell you that there is more great stuff is on the horizon. Like I said, next time we'll look at the second run of RTD, and this past season in particular, as I have a sneaking suspicion that we may not see RTD back next time when the show does come back on. After that, we'll do a versus review of Doctor Who Carnival of Monsters, chosen by subscriber SD Harrison. If you want to suggest an upcoming classic or even a modern episode review, leave it in the comments and I may just pick it. The War Between the Land and the Sea will be here before you know it, and I will be there to review it. Hopefully a little quicker, but you know, who knows. I also may be picking up a new series that is unrelated to Doctor Who for us to nitpick apart while we wait around, so hit the subscribe button and enjoy more nonsense, because I have so much more in store for you. And as always, even the saltiest of hams can change the course of the future.
History is intact, thank you very much.
Well, thank you for resolving this mystery. We now know where the robots found the star certificate. Maybe I should go back and change my rating. Nah, fuck it.